For those who've experienced betrayal, the holiday season can bring a mix of emotions, grief, loneliness, and uncertainty, along with the pressure to celebrate. Today on Hope and Healing Chats, we'll be kicking off part one of our two-part series on navigating the holidays after intimate betrayal. Joining us today is our special guest, Adam Nisenson, also known as the Betrayal Shrink, who will expand the conversation to include both male and female partners navigating the aftermath of intimate betrayal. But first, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Welcome, Adam. Nice to see you again.
Thanks for having me back. Yeah.
Yes. Because you are the Betrayal Shrink. You have the expertise from the male betrayer side, betrayed side. I'm just saying the betrayer. Male betrayed side.
Male betrayed, yeah.
Yes. We wanted to do like a compare contrast episode because I'm used to talking about the female betrayed partners.
No.
And wanted to do it a little different this year and be like, so how does this look different on their end? Like, what does their experience look like? Generally, for female betrayal, well, just traditional, women are usually the ones that are on top of everything, baking the cookies, keeping the kids in order, who gets what gift. And then it seems like when the holidays come, they almost have to amp that up or kind of keep up appearances to do the whole holiday thing, even though, your world has shattered and everything feels horrible. How has that come across on the men's side?
Yeah, actually, love this topic and how timely. Believe it or not, what I'm seeing, what I'm working with my guys right now, being November, is it's a lot of the same, right? It's that feeling where the guys are, I have to hold it together. I have to be strong, even when everything's falling apart inside. And then there's the added factor, and I'm sure for women who've been betrayed, it's the same, right? I think the holidays, I will say, in some capacity, bring up a lot of the same kind of wounds and feelings and stories for both sexes. But, it's every commercial, right, is showing families doing things. And there's already all the Christmas commercials. I'm already seeing a lot of them, right? But every song, are we going to do a family, card, a family PJ photo? Are we going to send out the family card? How, you know what I mean? And so I think a lot of that stuff is going to be the same, for both. One of the things that I've noticed in the past for men is this idea that in some capacity, they do get left out, right? Because often the mom, if you will, is the one that's rounding up everything, making everything happen. And so what I often see with the betrayed man is he kind of feels left out. He's not sure how to interact with his partner who cheated on him. He's not sure what he's included in or what he wants to be included in.
Yeah.
So I like to say the holidays are like a collision between grief and celebration. So if you want to talk about some serious dissidence, to be surrounded by joy, but when your world is collapsed, right? So there's two lives that are being lived for sure. And again, it's probably a little bit of the same for both.
Yeah. When it's the male that's done the betraying, they don't know how to interact. They don't know how to fit into all this. Is it the same though when they have been betrayed? Is it still don't know how to interact with my partner during, is it the same despondency when the role switches?
I think there's some of the same. What I see a lot is, that the ideology of the guy has to man up, right? So there's a lot, right? There's a lot of, look, men already, when men get cheated on, their default is pretty much isolation to begin with. And so the holidays will amplify that, right? They feel even that they have less of a place. There's even less of an ability for anyone to understand. They believe they have to show up even more because it's the holidays. I've had guys in the past have really struggled where during the holidays where they realized maybe I started drinking too much to numb out, or I have a lot of guys that worked more, right? They did the opposite because they didn't want to be around. They didn't want to be reminded during the holiday season of their pain. So there's a lot more of that, of what I see. I would even say like a fair amount of like overcompensating, right? So the man's going to try to figure out, how do I prove my worth a little bit more?
Huh.
So you get, I see that spectrum happening a lot. The part that worries me for guys is doing unhealthy behaviors, because it actually, I mean, the holidays, we always think they're so happy, but even people
Mm.
not going through betrayal, right? Like,
Yeah,
this
it's a
as a
lot.
therapist, holidays, I would say for at least half of the world or majority are depressing for a
Yeah,
lot of
so
people.
true.
They're not all what we make it out to be on TV and in movies, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Well, I found interesting what you said about how they overcompensate. I feel like
Yeah.
female betrayed partners overcompensate, but it looks different.
Yeah.
Like it won't be throwing themselves into work, but it'll be more like throwing like more into the family, like showing up more. Probably bake double cookies this year. Like everything is extra and over to try to
Yeah.
overcompensate. So it's the same thing, just shows up differently.
That's fair. Also, like last year, I had a couple guys that weren't even going, like for Thanksgiving, weren't going to the family dinner because it was actually at their in-laws,
Mm-hmm.
and because they just felt so alienated, and their in-laws kind of knew, but they were taking, of course, the side of their daughter, right? And so those guys felt really not seen, not validated. So, there's that loss of, I would say, like shared traditions,
Yeah, yeah.
and that can happen for both, right? So, and then also, right, the tainted memories that this creates for the holidays, and the reminders of what once was, or what was really
Mm-hmm.
real or not real now. I think that can carry through for both. I think the biggest difference, though, is I think the man will shut down, and then also, right, anger can happen. Even the betraying partner, right, the shame they will be carrying during the holidays and around all of this. It's a mess for everyone, for sure. The holidays are brutal, you know.
Because, like you said, even if you're not dealing with betrayal, holidays are a brutal time for most people, more than not. Just family traditions, deaths in families,
Yeah,
loneliness. Like it's so multi-layered.
for sure.
Um,
Tons of triggers.
gift giving. When it's the male, once again, overcompensating. So when the male is the betrayer, it's like, I'm going to get the biggest gift for her and, try to, I don't know,
Yeah,
correct and to make everything went right. And
yeah.
then
Win
the
her
female
back.
betrayer is like, I don't want any of that. Or, we have to figure that whole thing out. What does gift giving look like?
It's really interesting is I see both sides. I get the spectrum, right? I have the guy who will be like, my partner said, because they feel guilty, they don't want anything. So then he's stuck in a double
Mm.
bind, right? Well, if I don't get her something, then she won't think I care. And she already doesn't think I care because she had the affair, right?
Oh,
And
that's
then,
interesting.
yeah. And then sometimes they go over the top, right? It's kind of, and I also get the guy that's like, screw them. I'm not going to do anything. They should be getting me the gift, and they should.
Yeah.
Again, it's messy, and I always tell my guys, look, the key here is how do you find some balance? How do you show up the best version of you? And the fact you're feeling all those things, even anger, means you care, means they matter, means it has such a profound impact on you.
Mm.
And so I just always say, like, be you, be the best version of you. And so maybe you're not getting her the fancy car with the red ribbon like in the TV
Because
commercials.
everybody gets those.
I mean, every year that happens to me.
Yeah.
I say I wish, but I don't, because that'd be a lot of car
Yep.
payments. But like, do something that feels good for you, right? Nothing that's in a mean way or revengeful, or like, be
Mm.
the best version of you, because at the end of the day, that's part of your healing, is to know you're okay, to know that you're doing what feels right. Like, listen to your heart and your truth is what I kind of tell them.
I think that's so interesting that you get the range of,
Yeah, but it
because
makes sense, doesn't it?
it absolutely does. Because on the female side, it doesn't, they're more concerned about the gift that they're going to get. and they're like, I don't want the big, huge gift, but he's going to do it anyway. So then that's triggering and that becomes a
Well,
whole thing. You mentioned how some guys aren't going to, family dinners and
yeah,
such. And I feel like for the female betrayed partners, that part is always a lot of pressure because they feel like they have to. Like it's almost like not even a
yeah, I can
discussion or
see
an
that.
option
Yeah,
to be
especially if
like,
there's kids, right? They have to go. They have to.
they have to go. Yeah, there's no discussion around. It's more like, how do we handle it when you get there? And who knows what? What are you going to share with who? And that becomes more of the discussion. It sounds like there's more, for lack of a better term, but freedom on the male betrayed side to be like,
I
I'm
guess I don't know if I call it
out of
freedom, but
here.
I know what you mean
Yeah,
because they
yeah.
definitely don't feel
It's
free
not
in those
freedom.
moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think too. I think for the guy, I think the ego wound can really play into that. Like, I'm not going. I will show them. Right. But what they don't
Mm,
always realize is the impact it has overall on everyone and even themselves. Right. Because then there's a huge loneliness factor that happens. The holidays with betrayal mixed in, its boundaries, right, are probably one of the most
yeah.
important things to talk about with your partner. And what does this look like? And how do we navigate this? And how do we show up if we have kids? And how can we actually maybe show up in a better way than we have in the past for each other? Piling on, guilting someone, right? Falling on the sword over and over again to prove a point doesn't serve or help anyone. So I think it's a great time, right, to look at redefining traditions, redefining connection,
Hmm.
looking at our boundaries. I think finding new traditions
Yes.
is a good thing,
Absolutely.
right? Like, I have guys that last year, like, they started volunteering like during the holidays, like they went and did meals and did some stuff like that so they can feel fulfilled. Can't say that fast, right? And they can kind of not be alone and kind of rebuild a little bit. So there's a lot of ways, I think, to find yourself and to be safe during the holidays.
I love, love, love the idea of making new traditions. I always talk about that because there's always, I feel like, a pull to do the traditional thing because you've been doing it for so long. But it's like, who says you can't change? Do something different. Life has
Yeah,
changed.
nothing has to stay. Nothing stays the
Yeah,
same.
things can shift at any given moment.
Yeah,
So
quickly.
traditions can switch. Like you
Yeah.
don't, have the kids wrap gifts for someone else or whatever. Like do the family wrapping of gifts, so you're not the one wrapping everyone's gifts. Like for the females, I'm always like, have the kids do more stuff. Like you don't have to, and they might enjoy doing it. Like you don't have to be the person doing everything for everyone.
Yeah, and connection doesn't mean you're with your partner either, right? You can have best friends, right? I talked about, volunteering, getting into the community. I had one or two guys that actually they left. They went out of town by themselves. They did a trip and they wanted to be alone. They wanted to connect with themselves. They wanted to have a life experience, which I thought was beautiful. It made
Yeah.
sense.
And I've also suggested that when females don't want to go to either family's house, and I said, well, then do a new trip.
Yeah,
Like grab the kids, go somewhere else, pick somewhere. Like you don't have to go to families' houses if you don't feel comfortable doing that.
yeah, or
Make something
safe.
new. Go to the beach. Like do something else. And something else you touched on, boundaries.
Yeah,
Because I feel like boundaries kind of have to be reevaluated during the holiday season. And it's
yeah.
always important to be like, they're not going to necessarily look the same as they would throughout the year as they'll look for the holidays.
I think human nature, we resist difficult conversations and difficult
Yeah.
topics, right? In the holidays with betrayal, it is all going to be difficult to a certain extent. If you guys are going to therapy together, or even if you're doing individual work, figure that out, but ahead of time, right? Like, and at
Yes.
the end of the
Yeah.
day, listen, I think sometimes one of the factors that creates betrayal and betrayal experiences, couples lose the art of communication. So this is a good time to practice communication, right? And to talk about what your wants and needs are and what you both need to feel safe. And then I think even then from there, the bigger part is, what are your expectations of each other? I think that's super healthy. And that's also being vulnerable. And I think speaking your truth is good. And like we've alluded to, I think it's okay to skip events. If you're not
Yeah.
feel good about doing something, and I get a lot of guys will tell me like, well, the kids, right? I'm sure women too. I have to do it for the kids. I have to do it for the kids. Okay. What's that look like? Let's say if you're going to the in-laws, is it, I'm just going to come for dinner and then I'm going to leave after, and then my wife and the kids are going to stay and hang out and commingle. Like figure out what feels safe, what feels balanced, so you can still fulfill your, let's say, fatherly, manly duties, but also at the same time, some self-care, some balance for sure.
And I think it's so important to walk through what does that look like,
Yeah.
because often people say do it for the kids. A lot of times my response to that is please don't do these children any favors,
Yeah.
because
I
when
love
they
that.
do that, well, I say don't do them any favors except for save up for their therapy money, because that's what they're going to need in the future later on. If you're going to keep doing this, then because at the end of the day, if you're doing it for the kids, but then the process of how you're doing it is more damaging than if you just didn't do it for the kids or just shifted and do something else completely different. Like you're not doing it. It's not helping anybody.
You bring up another good point is depending upon your kids, your children's ages, they kind of sense, they know, like years later, like my son told me, like as he saw me through my journey and then finding happiness again and love again, he was like, he noticed, like, he's like, wow, so different than back then, Dad. And I'm like, damn, I thought I was doing a really good job of hiding it and pretending.
Everyone does.
Yeah.
Everyone does. And I tell my clients examples of that. Like, I know you think that you're killing it and that they don't notice anything, but they notice, and it's going to not feel good later on when they tell you about it because you were doing it for them. It's not helping them the way you think it is. Even more reason to just change the game if you need to change it. Like, is no reason to just stick to everything, because you want to feel safe. You want it to be a good experience for the kids. You don't want it to be adding to the tension that's already there.
I'll say this also, again, depending upon the age of your children, they're not going to understand all this, and they shouldn't, and they don't have the capacity, and they don't need to get involved, right? But when they're older or young adults, right, you can have those conversations. Remember when this is what I experienced. This is why I did it. It's nothing against me or your mom, right? And I think those are great gifts to give your kids / young adult children one day. They can see the human side. They can understand, and you can show them what it means to be an adult by going back and reflecting on that.
Absolutely. And that could be a whole nother episode.
Sure. To the kids. Let me know. We'll set it up.
Yes. Look out for that email. Oh, with female betrayed partners, because you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. If they're traveling to in-laws, it's almost like they want them to know. Like, I want to make sure everybody knows what you did, because like this, the injustice, they want them to know. And you kind of touched on that earlier, where on the other side, the in-laws do know, but then they're just siding with the daughter. So it's not, is there like that inner need to want them to know, or does that not even, especially if men have the ego thing going on and go into isolation? I feel like the females that go outward, they want it, to everyone to know about it.
One of the things I see across the board is, I think the male and the female, I think there's that inherent want of revenge, or I want people to know, I want your family to know you're bad and I'm the good one, right? And I've had guys where the relationships have ended, and let's just say the in-laws don't really know. They just get the one side and it's skewed, and they want to, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to tell them. And I'm like, nah. I go, what's that going to do?
Yeah.
Right. It's there's like, just do you, work on you. I think that's just some human nature in it. I don't know if I'm answering your question.
No, you did. But... No, because I was just curious, because I was like, do they want them to know, especially if their ego might be like, well, I don't want anyone to know about this because then I might feel bad. But I was wondering if there was any difference there.
I think it's different for everyone to a certain extent. It's either revenge or it's falling into shame and not wanting anyone to know. Or afraid they do know, and what are they going to think or judge of me? So I just won't go. I don't want to be seen.
Mm-hmm. So do they find themselves masking in the holiday experience?
Yeah, I think that goes back to what I was saying, where people will
Wow.
numb out and
Mm,
overcompensate. One of the things, I'll tell my guys, like, the holidays are a painfully great opportunity to find yourself and to practice and to learn how to manage your emotions, right? How to regulate your feelings, how to look at your triggers and all that kind of stuff, because you're going to be triggered almost every day during the holidays because it's such a family themed time. So being prepared, knowing what you need to ground yourself. I tell guys, if you don't journal, this might be a great time to start to journal. If you don't understand breathing and how to put your feet on the ground and just slow down, this is a great time, right? I think the other part is the holidays kind of create this compare and contrast syndrome, I guess I'll call it,
yeah.
right? We're
Yeah.
looking at, when we're judging what we
Compare and
think everyone,
despair.
yeah,
Yeah.
listen, look, I know this, this, not everything out there is not all like you see on TV. Every family has struggles and problems and there's things. And so you have to be really conscious not to go into that compare and contrast kind of place. And the other part is, I think, because emotions can get so intense during the holidays, I'll tell my guys, like, how are you? I guess I call it kind of like emotional budgeting
Hmm.
everything, because you have to kind of like, I have to
Yeah.
spread out. I only have so much in the tank, right? And I have to save that energy and those feelings and emotions for where they would really count, if you will.
I
So,
love that idea. I'm stealing
yeah,
that. Thank you.
steal it,
Yeah.
take it,
yeah. I like that emotional budgeting because
rebrand
that's,
it. Yeah,
yeah.
I think that's actually,
yeah.
I'll just say this to anyone who's been betrayed. I think you need to learn to emotionally budget all the time, right? Because we
Yeah.
all know, I know from my betrayal journey, man, when it's bad and I'm spiraling, like, there's nothing else I can do, and nothing, it feels like, can save me in those moments.
In short, even though we're
Yeah,
doing a compare and contrast conversation, it sounds honestly kind of pretty similar. It might look different, like the masking looks different, but
yeah,
at the core of it, it's still the same. So, making new traditions, like how do they move out of this? Making new traditions, your boundaries, and what coping stuff actually works for you. Because lots of times we're so go, 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 and holidays are going to shift you into more go, 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 go. And it's like, okay, this is actually a time to slow down and like, what are your needs, and be even more intentional and prepare before the holidays get here. You mentioned that
yeah,
earlier, and I just wanted
yeah.
to emphasize that because I feel like that is such a huge point, because it's almost like, oh, we're in the holidays, and then now you're looking for resources and support, and this support group is on hiatus for the holidays, or
Right.
reaching out to certain people and they're not available. Like, you got to have these things
Prepare
actually
ahead.
ahead of time, so
Totally.
you know who is available, what sources of support do you actually have before being in the holidays and then just feeling kind of like empty.
I would agree. I think at the end of the day, like, I know we're a little bit comparing and contrasting, but I think the holidays and what they mean for people, I think that's universal pretty much. So I
Yeah.
think those wounds are going to be very much universal. And I would even challenge couples, like, if you're looking at reconciling, right? The holidays might be a great time to look at that and to do that, because, right, there is more joy. Everyone's a little bit happier and a lot more open, and there's more in people being inclusive. And so, I don't know, is it a chance to step through that pain of what was lost and look at, what do I want to recreate, or what's going to be new, or can I really do this? You know?
Yeah, no, I like that because there's a certain of open level of openness just being in
Yeah,
the holiday feel itself.
totally. Yeah.
Um,
Hard time though, but we don't get to choose when we're betrayed, unfortunately. And we don't
no, you
always
don't
get to,
schedule it.
yeah, we don't always get to choose how our partner is responding or showing up. And so the only thing we can choose and have control over is how we show up and how we let it impact us, and how and what we do with that. That's it. It's
Absolutely.
almost
And
that
it's
simple.
choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all about choice at the end of the day.
Totally.
Well, thank you so much, Adam, for stopping by
Yeah,
again. It was wonderful.
my pleasure.
And if you'd like to know more about Adam, the Betrayal Shrink, his info is in the description below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you won't miss part 2 of our series, where we'll explore how the betrayer can take meaningful steps to support their partner during this challenging holiday season. And as always, remember to embrace your healing journey. Every step forward brings a new hope for tomorrow. See you next time.